Instagram has done it again. I am your host, Jack Williams. This is the Be More podcast. This is the podcast you listen to help you to be more, to hear inspiring stories. And this one is another one to add to your listening bank of inspiration, if you want to put it that way, because this girl has an incredible story and I can't wait to share it with you. So without further ado, here is episode 27 of the Be More podcast. This is the Be More podcast. I am your host, Jack Williams, and this is a show all about health, nutrition, mindset, and performing at our very best. And this is going to be your catalyst to being more. Welcome to episode 27 of the Be More podcast. Today I'm joined by the lovely guest that is Holly Allen. Me and Holly met on Instagram. What was it, a few weeks ago? You were listening to one of my podcasts and you stuck it on your Instagram story like I always ask people to, and I reached out to you and I saw your profile and I was like, wow, this person's going to have a cool story. Do you know what? Come on the podcast. So, Holly, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. A bit nervous. How are you?
This is the first time you've done something like this before, isn't it?
It is indeed.
I've just had a coffee, so I'm revved up and ready to hear your story. So, without further ado, I always start the podcast with asking the guest to sum up their life in 1 minute. No pressure. 1 minute. Let's do this.
Okay. So my name is Holly. I'm from Southport, but I'm at university in Nottingham. I'm doing an English degree. And I had my last exam yesterday, so I'm very excited for the summer. And basically, I kind of started my Instagram page, The Peach Degree, because when I was 15, I had leukemia, and I was kind of really, really poorly, obviously, underwent 3 years of treatment, and it was kind of my way of kind of having a fitness account, kind of getting back on my feet, and kind of getting back to full health, really. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So you started an Instagram account, and then you built it up since then. How long has that been live for?
Yeah, so I've only actually had the account for, it's kind of just under a year now, but it was kind of, I just wanted to kind of share my story, and show people that are kind of, have gone through similar illnesses, that you kind of can, kind of get back to your full self, and, get back kind of stronger and fitter than ever, really.
And your health now is 100%?
Yeah, so 100%. So I'm completely cancer free. I'd say I'm in pretty good shape, pretty good, I've got good strength and everything like that. And from kind of what I've been through and kind of, I was in a wheelchair for 3 months of my life. So it's kind of, for me, it's a really big deal that I can now, kind of be strong and lift weights in the gym and whatnot.
So when you were 15, you found out you had leukemia, is that right?
Yes.
And then were you previously exercising a lot before then, or were you
Yeah.
health and fitness big on your agenda as well then?
So that was kind of why it was kind of such a massive knock, if you like. So literally since I was about 4 years old, I was always dancing, performing, and the plan was when I was 15, I was going to go to dance college, and that was kind of going to be my life, that was kind of what I wanted to do. I danced 6 days a week, every day after school. And so to go from, being this dancer, being so active, being so healthy, I was the girl at school that all the girls were kind of oh my God, Holly, you're so active, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. And then to kind of go from that to being bedbound for basically 3 years, it was just kind of a massive knock. And I remember asking my doctor, will I ever dance again? And he was like, it literally just kind of depends on how you kind of cope with the treatment. And at the time, I really was not coping well. So I experienced so many side effects. So it was a really hard time. And kind of, to have your dreams kind of shattered, to think, oh my God, I'm never going to be on stage again, for me was it was horrible. So
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So did you just get poorly really quickly then when you was obviously diagnosed with leukemia, or was it a progressive thing that built up? Or
So basically I was actually at a dance summer school, And it was just really strange. On like the first day, I just felt like really, really faint and dizzy. And I was always kind of the girl who was very much at the front. I was always, had the biggest smile. I always gave it so much energy, and I just couldn't. I had to kind of sit out on that first day. And for me, that was kind of really strange. I was a bit like, oh God, like this is a bit weird. And also I was like really embarrassed because I was at this really like prestigious school in London kind of for the summer. And then at the end of the kind of summer camp thing, my parents came to watch the performance at the end. And when they came, they kind of they just didn't think that I was like performing my best. And they just kind of thought that I looked a little bit kind of lethargic. And but at that point, I kind of felt fine. I just thought, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm just tired or whatever. And then I went on holiday for 3 weeks with my family. And while I was there, again, I just didn't want to kind of, do the usual things that we did on holiday. Like I didn't want to kind of, go on bike rides or go on walks. I was just exhausted. So I literally would just kind of lie by the pool all day. And I didn't have an appetite either. So I was literally having like fizzy drinks every single day just to kind of give me energy. But again, I just kind of put it down to, like being kind of in the south of France in the heat. I've never really dealt with like really hot climates that well anyway. So I just kind of put it down to that. And then when I got home, I started back to school. So it was my GCSE year, my final year of GCSE, so year 11. I started school straight away when I got back from holiday, and my school was like a 10-minute walk from my house. And I remember on that first day walking to school, and I was like out of breath. I like couldn't walk to school, and I had to kind of like stop on the way. It was so strange. But I used to walk with my friends, and it's probably sounds really stupid, but we kind of like, we were just like joking about it, and we were like, oh God, everyone stop for Holly, like da da da. Because I didn't know what it was. I thought I was just, I don't know, going through some like weird stage, or I don't know, I was really hormonal or whatever. Like I didn't know what it was. And then that night I was supposed to go to dancing, and as soon as I got there, I remember I just couldn't do anything. And I remember pretending to like retie my shoelace. I remember this so clearly, pretending to like retie my shoelace just because I just needed to like put my head down, and I just needed to look at the floor, because everything was just like, everything in my head was like grey and fuzzy, and I just felt like really, really faint. So again, I sat out of that class, and then my mum came and picked me up. And so I was really, really lucky in that my mum's a scientist and my dad's a doctor. And as soon as my mum came, she was like, right, something isn't right. You look really, really pale. I'm going to take you to the lab now. And I just want to do a blood test just to kind of, make sure everything's okay, check your hemoglobin. So we did the blood test, and a normal hemoglobin is between like, well, anywhere between like kind of 8 to 12 to 15. And mine was 5. So that kind of explained why I was, so out of breath, why I was feeling so tired. And literally from that moment, like the roller coaster began. So I got taken straight to hospital, and I got given a blood transfusion. And that was like the really strange thing. As soon as I'd been given the blood transfusion, obviously I felt fine the next day. I felt really, really good. And I was kind of thinking, oh, like, I'm fine now. I obviously just needed, that kind of extra kick or whatever. And then what happened then? So that was on the Friday. And then on the Saturday, I had kind of like an operation where the doctors basically went into my spine and took out some fluid. And then on the Monday was the confirmation that it was leukemia. And that is when it all began.
So obviously I had Chris on the podcast the other day, and he had a brain tumour.
Yeah.
He explained how he felt when he found out. Did you listen to that episode? Did you feel the same, or did you just, what happened? What went through your mind?
So as I say, at that point, I was feeling kind of back to normal. I was feeling fine because I'd had this blood transfusion, and they caught it really, really early on, which obviously was really, really good. And I'm so lucky that, my parents were able to take me to the lab that night, and I was able to have the blood test, and, everything moved very quickly, which was obviously really, really lucky. So obviously they caught it early. I'd had this blood transfusion. I felt fine in myself, and I honestly thought, I'm just a little bit anemic. I really did not ever think in my, wildest imagination, this could be cancer, like never. So I remember on that Monday, the doctor had asked to see my parents separately. And I remember I was watching When Harry Met Sally, and I was watching it with one of the play leaders that worked in the hospital, and we were just watching it, and we were laughing and just talking about girly things, and I just felt kind of fine and happy, and I thought, okay, okay, I'm getting a bit fed up of being in hospital now, but by the time my parents come back, they'll be like, okay, it's fine, this is what we need to do, let's take you home. I thought it was all going to be fine. And then I just remember my parents walking back into the room, and my dad walked in first, and my mum was behind my dad, and my mum literally couldn't look at me. But again, I just kind of thought, I just couldn't kind of get my head around the fact that this could be anything serious. I was a healthy girl. I was top of my class and everything. I was top of my dance class and everything. This wouldn't be something serious. And then, so anyway, the play specialist left, and my parents stood at the end of my bed, and my dad basically said, it's not good news. And I was just kind of like, what do you mean it's not good news? And he was like, you've got leukemia. And I'd never even heard of leukemia. I didn't know what it was. And I basically just went, is that a type of cancer? And he couldn't bring himself to say it. He was just like, yes. And my mum started to cry. And the first thing I said was, am I going to lose my hair? Because for me, losing my hair, for a 15-year-old girl who's incredibly self-conscious, looks at everything at that age, especially for the industry that I wanted to go into, performing, that to me was honestly the worst thing that could have possibly happened. I didn't even care about how ill or poorly the chemotherapy was going to make me. I just thought, oh my God, I cannot lose my hair. I kind of had hair like I do now, so it was just long and blonde and wavy, and it was literally my kind of crown and glory. And I remember that night sleeping in that hospital room, and I didn't really sleep, but I just kept kind of drifting in and out, and then waking up and grabbing onto my hair and just kind of being like, oh my God, is it still here? Is it still here? And just kind of completely freaking out that it was just, I was going to just be gone, which obviously it wouldn't, but yeah, it was a kind of a very strange kind of being told that you kind of have something that you don't even really know what it is or how it's going to make you feel, and you're literally stepping into the unknown. It was, yeah, very, very strange.
So from the word go, there was well, we can operate and we can save you, or was it a case of it could be life-threatening, or what was the situation?
So as I say, I was really lucky in that it was caught so early. So and childhood leukemia rates are survival rates are really, really good, which is amazing. And I'm kind of so grateful for how they acted so quick. So I had the news on the Monday. I think I started my first chemotherapy treatment on the Wednesday. So it was really, really quick to start. I was kind of straight in there getting all the treatment that I needed. And yeah, the chances of, survival were really, really high. And as I say, because we caught it so early, it did look good, if you like. And I know it sounds really strange, but I always knew that I was going to be fine. Once I'd kind of accepted, I don't think you ever really accept what happens to you, but once I'd kind of got to grips with, okay, I've got this, I need to deal with this. I just kind of thought, I'm not going to kind of let this win. Like, I am going to win. Like, I just knew I was going to be okay, if that makes sense.
The whole way through.
Yeah, like even when I mean, I had a lot of kind of like complications. I've actually been resuscitated, and kind of been on like the high dependency unit. But I just, yeah, it's really, really strange when you have kind of an illness like that. You really do. It sounds so cringy, but you really, really do find like an inner strength because you have to, because that's literally the only way that you are going to get through it. And this also sounds really cheesy, but I really, really do think that kind of 90% of the cure is like a kind of a positive attitude, or not even, obviously, you know, you're not positive while you kind of go through that, but having a strong mindset. And, you know, I was so lucky to have a really kind of strong family, who really supported me. And having that is really kind of what fueled my journey, I guess, and just made me think, I'm going to be fine. I can do this.
Love that. And that
Yeah.
mindset you've got is that just something that's been built into you think from your parents and from your family, or is that something that you were working on through like childhood? Where did you get that from?
I think literally just from kind of, as I say, I think you have to. I think when you kind of are given, you know, are faced with a really kind of tough time and, you know, a difficult situation to deal with, that's your only option. Your only option is to kind of is to fight. And I think it was my dad who was always very much the kind of the one who, you know, my mum was always very emotional, and she kind of gave me that emotional support and that kind of love, you know, that I needed. But my dad was always the one who, even though I didn't like it at the time, you know, when I was having my down days, my dad was always the one that would say, no, come on, you know, like we need to pick ourselves up. We need to get on with this. You will get through it. And we have like a saying now in my family: when the going gets tough, remember you're an Allen, because that's what my dad used to always say. He was like, Holly, you're an Allen, like you will get through this. And that is something now that, like, whenever, like, no matter what it is, even if it's like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym today or whatever, I always just think to myself, okay, one, I've been through a lot worse, and two, I'm an Allen, so it's all fine.
That's awesome. I think the role parents play in like our mental health and our mindset and
Yeah,
everything is so important. Even from the minute we were young, like I'm incredibly grateful for it now. I didn't really realise when I was probably your age, like how much of
yeah,
an impact it was going to have in my life, like how well, like lucky I was to have the upbringing that I had. And I think you say, oh,
absolutely.
there's only one way to react when you've got that kind of problem. That isn't the only way. Like people normally they become a victim and they don't act the way you
Mm,
do. That's why I said to you, how have you done that? But now I understand, like, your dad's obviously and your parents have brought you up in a way that is like, no, we can get you through this, which is so important, like, so important.
yeah.
And I know that whenever
No,
I see, go on, you carry on.
my, my parents were just amazing. Like when I was a teenager, me and my mum, we got on, but you know, I was like, I was such a brat before I was ill. Like I was so lippy, and I was like, you know, quite rude to her, I guess, just as, you know, a lot of teenagers are. But it has kind of brought us so close, and like, you know, the kind of the bond that we all share now is, it's kind of absolutely irreplaceable, you know. And it's kind of one of the things that out of my illness, you know, I do think that there are a lot of benefits from my illness, and the kind of bond and relationship that myself and my parents have now is one of the things that, you know, I'm so grateful for, and I'm so grateful that my illness kind of did give me, if you like.
Awesome. I've got so many questions. But obviously, I think I said to Chris, I'm going back to Chris, but I said to him, surely that, because it seemed like his illness was what was the catalyst in him, like getting his life back on track. And if anything,
Yeah,
it was almost a good thing that it happened. Like he never would have thought that at the time, but what happened as a result of it, he changed his whole mindset and his perspective of life. and his life now in reflection showed that was a good thing to happen. And it seems like it was almost the same for yourself. Like it got relationships improved for you, your perspective changed. Like so it seems like it's almost like a good thing that it happened.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think, as you say, at the time you think it's literally the worst thing in the world, and you think this is just kind of, this has ruined my life and whatnot. But actually now, me and my parents were having this conversation last week. We were all saying how we feel like we're all kind of better people for what happened. So one, our relationship as a family, we have grown so close, and, like with my sisters as well, we kind of all have just such a much kind of deeper understanding of one another, because we've all been in that place kind of, together. And I think you just have a completely different perspective and view on life, the kind of the little things in life that may kind of get you down on a day-to-day basis. They really don't, because you kind of see everything. I guess you see everything for what it really is, and you put things into perspective. And now, I kind of really try and like live and enjoy every day, as cringe as that sounds, just because I think, you never know when it could just be taken away from you. And you've got to just make the most of it and enjoy.
So true. But like, I think no matter how hard times get, like for people listening now, that your times are like they suck and you're really unhappy, just realise that one day you're probably going to be grateful for this moment, because it's the hard times that kind of create who we are and teach us these lessons for us to then change who we are and then become better people, like you said. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Your whole outlook on life has changed now. So like, yeah, how long did the whole process take, like recovery, then what happened after that?
So, as I say, I was diagnosed in September, and that was at the start of my final year of GCSEs. And then so it was supposed to be 2 years, 10 weeks of treatment, but I think mine ended up being like 2 years, 16 weeks or something, just because of complications and having to start and stop on the way and things like that. But obviously kind of once you take that last tablet, it's kind of not over. It's not like you just suddenly stop getting the kind of side effects and things that you got from the chemotherapy drugs. So I finished treatment in December. Can't remember the year exactly, but it was in my second year of college. And then I kind of, at that point, I was still like very, very weak. So I lost a lot of weight during my illness. And that was basically down to the fact that at the start I was given a really high dose of steroids, and they basically changed my whole body shape. They completely redistributed all of my body fat. So I had I was in, as I say, I was in really good shape before because I was a dancer. And I basically ended up with like massive chubby cheeks, a huge like pot belly, tiny skinny legs and really skinny arms. And that just made me feel like horrible, and it made me feel so insecure about my appearance. I'd lost my hair at this point, and it just made me feel kind of horrible about my body and my shape and everything. And kind of from that, I wouldn't call it an eating disorder, but I kind of developed just a really unhealthy relationship with food, in that I kind of thought, I felt like I saw it as, oh my God, I'm getting fat. I need to kind of eat a lot less. I need to, stop eating, blah, 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 to try and get rid of this kind of bloat. But obviously the bloat was inevitable because I was having these steroids that were making me that way. So I started kind of eating like low calorie meals and like low sugar this and low fat that, and it was really, really unhealthy. We also had like some like gym equipment in my house, and I used to go on the exercise bike for like 2 hours a day, just because I was desperate to kind of try and I guess as well, I was desperate to like have control over something. I was given these cocktail of drugs every single day that I had, no choice whether or not I had them. I had to have them. I had to go to hospital that was 2 hours away, 3 days a week. So for me, I just wanted to have control over something in my life. And by being able to kind of dictate what I ate, it was kind of a power thing as well. Um, so yeah, so as I say, I kind of had this really unhealthy relationship with food. I lost loads of weight. I was really underweight, and the kind of turning point for that was my hair started to grow back. And then because I was so underweight, I lost all of my hair again, not due to the treatment. Well, probably partly due to the treatment, but also just because I was so underweight. And at that point, I kind of realized, oh God, something needs to change. So I kind of started eating like fairly normally-ish again. But again, it's not something that just happens overnight. It was really, really hard for me to kind of accept, okay, I need to eat more, that is also out of my hands now, being told by the doctor, okay, I'm giving you this drug, that drug. You also now need to go and drink full fat milk. Like, for me at that time was like, I don't want to do that. Like, no. So as I say, at the end of my treatment, that again was a point for me, like, okay, I have control over a bit more control over myself now. I don't have to take these, this chemotherapy and these drugs that make me feel this, that, and the other. And it was kind of at that point, the point that I realized I want to get my strength back, because like things like, I couldn't walk like longer than half an hour, say, because my ankles would really, really hurt. I couldn't run across the road because I would probably fall over. That's how weak my ankles were, my legs were. And I just kind of thought, I've got no reason to be like this now. I have no excuse. I need to get myself back into shape. So yes, I finished treatment and I started going to the gym, and I literally started doing a Zumba class with my friend once a week. And then after the Zumba class, I started going on the treadmill and literally just walking for like 10 minutes, no incline, probably like a really low speed. But for me, it was something. And I used to come home and my ankles would be in pain, and my parents were like, "Are you sure you should be doing this?" But I think they knew at that point I was doing it for the right reasons. I wasn't doing it because, I was desperate to lose weight, and I wasn't doing it because it was an excessive exercise thing. It was literally because I was like, yes, I need to get my strength back. And then kind of over the period of about like 6 months, I started going to the gym like only literally 2-3 times a week. And I wasn't doing any weights or anything like that. I was literally like running on the treadmill. But the fact was, I was running on the treadmill, from a year before, being told in that doctor's office, yeah, sorry, you might never dance again. I'm not sure how long you're going to be in a wheelchair for or on crutches for, to now being on a treadmill. And I can always remember the treadmill at my gym back home. It was like right in front of a mirror. And I can always remember like watching myself and being like, is this really me? Like when I could suddenly run for like 40 minutes. It was a really strange thing. And then at that point, so I think I'd ran like my first 5K or something on the treadmill. And then I just decided to enter Race for Life that summer. And again, I thought this is something that's going to kind of motivate me and keep me going, and, make me kind of stick to the gym and things like that. And then, so I was literally just doing that, just running once or twice a week, and then did the 5K Race for Life, which for me was a really kind of big moment. I'd finished my treatment in the same year, and I felt like, I don't know, it was a really kind of really nice moment, like doing that, with my friends. I'd finished college, for that year, and it was just a really kind of ecstatic moment for me of, do you know what? I am okay. Like, I think I'm getting back on track now.
That must have felt so good.
Yeah, it really, really did. It really, really did. And that's when I just thought, I just want to keep on doing this. And
obviously it built from there, and now obviously your nutrition knowledge is really, really good. Like, how is that all built? Is it just from a case of, I want to go and learn because I want to go and do this for me? Or did you get guidance from someone? What happened?
So So after that summer of doing the Race for Life, I went to uni in Nottingham. And again, that was a massive thing. You know, it was kind of, I'd missed out on being a teenager, you know, being young and going out and having fun with my friends and, you know, like drinking. Like while all of my friends were out trying cocktails, I was just at home having a cocktail of drugs, you know, sitting in with my mum in bed by 8 p.m., like on a Friday night. So going to uni was a massive thing. And in my first year of uni, I actually was kind of, I guess you could say unhealthy in inverted commas, but I was just like living life. I was just having fun. I was basically making up for all of the kind of lost time, if you like. And I really don't regret any of it. You know, I was like going out pretty much 6 days a week, having fun with my friends, you know, and I just didn't care. But actually, in my first year of uni, I put on around a stone just from, I guess, eating crap and going out and whatnot. But again, like I don't look back at that as kind of like, oh God, I put on a stone. Oh God, I was so unhealthy, because I was literally just living life and, you know, having fun. And then when I got into my second year of uni, I kind of just realized like, oh God, okay, maybe I need to tone it down a little bit now. And I started going to the gym just because my gym is like really, really close to where I've always lived, like around uni. And there was a really, really good personal trainer at my gym, and he did kind of really good classes. So me and my friends used to always go. So it started off as literally just doing like 3, 4 classes a week at my gym. And then, yeah, I just kind of decided, do you know what? I feel confident enough to kind of go into the weight section. I was seeing things on Instagram, you know, I was following kind of fitness accounts and whatnot. So I kind of had an idea about exercises that I wanted to do and things like that. And obviously, the more you go to the gym, the more you get to know people who, you know, are in your gym, and the more people that can help you. And yeah, and kind of so that all started when I came back to uni in September. And by the Christmas of that year, I was absolutely hooked. Like I just realized, wow, I really enjoy weightlifting. I really enjoy the kind of feeling and that kind of power that it gives me. And it just felt a million miles away from feeling like that kind of weak 15-year-old, you know, lifting weights versus being kind of stuck in a hospital bed. It's like two completely different worlds, and it's two completely different girls. And yet I've kind of been both. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, it's really strange, but I can honestly say that like every single time I go to the gym and I lift, and whether I have a good session or a bad session, I'm always like so kind of grateful that I can be there, that I'm confident enough to be there, and that, you know, I have my strength back.
That's unbelievable. When you were in the bed in hospital, did you ever imagine yourself being who you are now?
Absolutely not. Like, if you'd have told me you will, first of all, you will kind of get enough qualifications to be able to go to college, to go to university, you know, to be in Nottingham University doing the degree that you've always wanted to do, English, you know, that is, first of all, something that I would have never thought possible. And just, you know, being told you will feel confident in yourself again, you know, you will feel confident in your own skin to kind of step out into the world and do what you want to do. I just wouldn't have believed you. You know, my confidence and my self-esteem was absolutely rock bottom, kind of based on all of the physical changes, you know, and the mental changes that kind of chemotherapy, it, you know, brings to you. Like I remember I got all of the nurses in hospital to like cover up all of the mirrors, because I just couldn't physically look at myself. Like I could not bring myself to look in the mirror and kind of see, you know, kind of who I was. And I think as well, it was a case of, if I looked, it was like, okay, this is real. This is really happening, if that makes sense. This is who I am. This is what I'm dealing with. So yeah, so it really is like unbelievable when I think back kind of to who that girl is and to kind of who I am now, you know, feeling confident. And it's funny because girls will often say to me like, oh, how do you feel confident enough to kind of go into the weights area of the gym? Like, you know, are you not intimidated? Because my gym is quite like a meathead gym, if you like. And it just doesn't even faze me, but it's just crazy because, like I said, if you'd have said that to me, you know, 3 years ago, I would have been like, no, absolutely not. Like, you've got the wrong girl.
It's unbelievable. So your transformation is like absolutely incredible. If there was like some advice you could give to someone who was going through something similar to what you went through, like how have you done it? Like what would your advice be?
As I said at the start of the podcast, I think having a positive mindset and just kind of almost kind of not accepting your situation, I guess, but you know, saying, okay, where I am now, but that this is not where I'm going to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years time. I think that is the kind of crucial thing, and just believing in yourself and thinking, I can do this. Okay, my situation is crappy now, but I can overcome this. Like, I am not going to let it win. I think that would kind of be my advice. Like, just don't give up, because you know, you can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Amazing. Have you got any like daily rituals that you could share?
Definitely. Daily ritual. I think it's really important when you kind of, you know, think that you're having a bad day or whatever, always remember that there is someone else who is in, you know, a much worse situation. Like, things could always be worse than kind of what, you know, whatever your situation is, you know. And I think that, you know, that still applies for like when I was, you know, ill. I also thought the same, you know. I was like, okay, at least I'm, you know, I'm on a normal ward, and I'm probably going to get to like go home next week, you know, or whatever. There are, you know, there's always someone else who's in a worse situation. So never take that for granted. And I guess just like appreciate and realize your self-worth as well. You know, yeah, like just look at yourself and think, do you know what? I am, like, even when I kind of felt so insecure and, you know, my self-confidence was on the floor, I would look at myself and think, no, do you know what? I'm Holly Allen. I'm an Allen. I can do this. Like, this will not be me forever. This is not permanent. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, like, perspective, gratitude, and like a vision of where you'll be versus where you are now is what you would say to people would be things you're in place. And do you write things down, or was this literally all in your head?
Just all in my head, pretty much. Yeah. All safe in there.
Love it. Awesome. So now you've like made an Instagram profile, like documenting your journey through recovery, and now obviously what you're doing now. Like, what's the future hold for you?
Yeah, so I basically made my Instagram because I feel like when I was kind of going through what I was going through, I never really kind of had anyone who'd kind of been through like a childhood or a teenage cancer, and who kind of, obviously you know, there obviously are loads of people who've kind of, you know, made a massive success of themselves, but I never had a figure to kind of follow and look up to. And so for me, the reason why I made the account is basically because I just really, 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 really want to kind of like reach out to people, whether it's cancer, no matter what kind of illness it is. I really want to reach out to those like children and teenagers and just kind of show them this is what you can do, you know. And I think my passion is like predominantly health and fitness, you know. I love it, but what I really want to do, and I think what the future holds for me, is helping people, you know, who've been in my situation, and just kind of helping them to get through it and letting them know this is not permanent, you know, you can do this, you will beat this.
It's awesome. So like it's almost like cancer's giving you a purpose, and it's like you said, well, like we said earlier, it's almost like it's happened to give you like this purpose and this calling that you're going to go and do what you feel like you're meant to go and do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think most definitely, you know, and I think kind of the, you know, the kind of help that I can give people now is so much more kind of valuable than the help that I could give people if this hadn't have happened to me, and if I was just, you know, a dancer, and if I'd have just kind of like gone down that path, if that makes sense.
Definitely. So now you've become like the perfect guest for the Be More podcast. So you've got 1 year left at uni. Then what's on the cards? You're going to get into what are you going to do? Career, health and fitness career, or are you going to go down? What are you going to do?
I honestly have no idea. I think I want to kind of just like go traveling, see the world, and yeah, just have a year of kind of really thinking about what I want to do and just enjoying life, I guess, and doing it kind of while I'm young, doing it while I can.
So you're
So yeah,
20, right?
yes, I'm 21 this month.
That is mental. Like your mindset and perspective and like how you look at the world at 20 is mental. Like, when I was 20, I would not be having the conversation we're having now. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
it definitely, you have to grow up really, really quickly, like when you kind of are in that situation.
Yeah, yeah. So it's taught you like life changing lessons, and I think, well, the future for you is so exciting,
Yes, fingers crossed.
and you're going to absolutely love traveling. I'm not sure if you're doing something with your headphones, but I can't hear you. Okay, are you all right? Are you
Hello? You hear me now?
okay? It's a little bit fuzzy, but we're yeah. Hopefully the recording won't pick up the fuzziness.
Okay.
I think it'll go in a second. It happened earlier, but it only lasted for like 5 seconds. Um, where can the listeners go to find you on like social media and stuff?
So it's the Peach Degree on Instagram. That is kind of my predominant platform at the moment. And hopefully this summer, now that I'm kind of done with exams, I'm hoping to start up a YouTube channel. And yeah, there I can kind of again talk about my experience and yeah, kind of share what I'm up to now in my life.
Amazing, amazing. Well, everyone definitely make sure you go and subscribe once you're set up. Go and follow this girl on Instagram because she's obviously hugely inspiring. She is being more every single day, and yeah, thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before you end? Is like any like leaving? Have you got like a favourite quote that you'd like to share, or a favourite book that you want to share with the listeners, or are you just literally just winging it and doing really well?
What am I going to end with?
Have you got a favourite book? Do you read much or not?
I do read a lot, obviously, because I'm an English student, so I'm
Yeah, but I
always
mean,
reading.
not.
Um,
Yeah.
as in,
I don't
apart
think we'd
from
want to read
my,
your English books. Yeah.
um, I'm trying to think what I want to end with. Oh yeah, okay, this is going to sound very, very cringy, but this, so basically, throughout my illness, I found like music really, really therapeutic. And I listened to loads of Ben Howard, and me and my sister were like obsessed with him. And when I was well enough, we went to see him at Glastonbury, and it was like incredible and all very emotional and whatnot. But my favorite quote ever, and again, I'm sorry for the slight cheesiness of this, but my favorite quote ever from one of his songs is "Keep your head up, keep your heart strong." And I'd like to end with that.
Love it. I think I'm going to name the podcast that. That's so good. I actually love that song as well, and I like Ben Howard, so that's so cool.
Oh, awesome.
But music is so good as well. So it's not someone hasn't mentioned that yet on the Be More podcast. Actually, they normally mention like self development books or whatever, whereas you said music, and I definitely agree. So
Yeah.
yeah, Ben Howard, everyone, get that in your ears this
Keep your head
afternoon,
up, keep your heart
and
strong.
love that, love that. Well, you have a great day. Enjoy the summer. Obviously, make it as productive as well. I want to see this YouTube channel. So yeah, when it's up, let me know, and I'm going to definitely check out and share it with everyone.
Awesome. Will do.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Now, I think you'll all agree that Holly absolutely smashed that episode of the podcast. Make sure you head over to Instagram and follow her on her journey. And I just wanted to say thank you to Holly for reaching out to me on her Instagram story last week. She posted on her Instagram story that she was listening to the podcast and that she loved it. And from there, we had a conversation which led to her basically coming onto my podcast. Now, she just messaged me saying, I love that so much. It's mental to think that just last week I was listening to a podcast thinking, that's awesome. And a week later, she was on the podcast. It's mental how much I really want everyone to engage with me on social media like Holly did, to open up that conversation, because I want to help everyone to be more. And you never know, it might end up being that you end up coming on the bloody podcast and sharing your story like Holly did, and sharing so much inspiration and motivation with all of the listeners. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm incredibly grateful that you do. And for me, I'm still pinching myself that people actually want to actually listen to the Be More podcast. So it's mental, and it's something that I've wanted to do for such a long time. So thank you so much for your support. It would mean the absolute world to me if you could leave me a review on iTunes or whatever podcast platform you listen to this on, or if you're on YouTube, just to comment below and give me a thumbs up and subscribe as well. That would mean the absolute world to me. So thanks, guys and girls. Enjoy the rest of your week. Go out there and smash it and keep being more, or at least trying to be more. And it will all pay off. Trust me. I'll see you soon. See you in the next one.